I didn't.
Michelle went this year.
Oh, did she? I can't remember why I didn't. Oh, Chad's gone. Kind of covering for his stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, it's time to go. This is awesome. We really might just be the only ones here.
That's okay.
I like it. Is there really anyone logged in but us?
I'm here. Susan Briggs.
Whoa. Where are you, Susan?
I'm in Pocatello at my home.
Oh, must be nice.
No kidding. Oh, you're the Galaxy S9 Plus?
Yes, I am.
Sweet. I just got the new Galaxy Note coming out.
Oh, you did? Yeah. I bet that's going to be a nice one.
How do you like that S9 Plus?
I like it a lot.
It's big, right?
It's not as big as the Note is.
I got my wife the Note too, and she's not super excited because she can barely do the one she has text because it's so big.
Yeah.
She has to
Yeah.
text like this.
Well, that's how I text anyway, so I'm not a fast texter.
Well, let's get rolling.
All right.
Suzanne Briggs, you said, right?
Susan, yes.
Susan Briggs. And you're in Pocatello?
Yes.
How long you been in the business and what are you planning to do?
Well, I'm planning on earning my husband and my retirement and enjoying some traveling. And I just got my real estate license number, showed up on Saturday.
Oh, sweet.
So I'm brand new.
Ready to roll.
Yes.
Have you been involved in real estate at all, or is this your...
Nope. This is my beginning.
Sweet.
Yes.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you.
Lots of training opportunities.
Yes.
Brandy, let's hear your history. We've been involved in a few things.
I have.
Yeah.
Been with Keller Williams for 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just making the leap to be a full-time buyer's agent.
Got it. And you've been doing some transaction coordination?
I've done transaction coordinating.
Yeah.
I've been a lead assistant. I've done compliance for the office. Cross-trained in several things as far as I processed checks once with Dwayne. That took us all day. We never processed checks again. I learned where my talent was, and it wasn't that one. Ooh, that's a tough one.
Was it hard?
You would think it wouldn't be hard, but it was tough.
Wow.
So, but and then my mother was a real estate agent, so.
Who's that?
Gail Knight in Pocatello.
Got it.
So I was raised by an agent. I've known a lot of the Pocatello agents since I was 4 or 5 years old.
Okay. So are you from Pocatello?
I grew up in Pokie.
And don't you have a relative here in this market center, Idle Falls?
No.
No? Got it. Somebody else.
No.
It's just mom down there. She's still practicing, or
She's not. She's retired.
Got it.
So.
Good. And so you're trying to be a full-time buyer's agent?
Yes.
With Michelle?
With Michelle.
Got it. Good agent, so good deal. Well, we are going to... Who else is with us? Is that it?
You got me here in Pocatello.
Who's that?
I'll let you know at the end of the training. We'll see how well you like me. No, my name is Bill Downs.
Bill Downs.
Yep.
What's your goals with real estate, Bill?
You know, I'm still kind of working on that, but one thing, my wife's about ready to retire from work, and I'm not ready to lose that much income, so I thought I better increase it.
Nice.
Went up to Jim Johnson some time ago and said, "Hey, you got any ideas?" And he said, "Funny you should ask." And here I am.
Awesome. So are you gonna work with him, or are you doing your own thing? What's your setup like?
I told him I'm going to be in his hip pocket until the day he dies.
Oh, that's smart. That is smart. Learn from the best, right?
You got that right.
That's good. Well, hopefully this is worth your time today. There's quite a bit of stuff in this session of Ignite. Has everyone hit the previous sessions?
I've missed 2.
You missed 2? Well, this is 4, right? Have you guys in Pokey hit the first 3?
I've got number 3 and then today.
How about you, Susan?
Well, this is actually my, it's my second one.
Second one, good. Well, one of the things they want us to review is the kind of the sales funnel of the selling process, especially when you're just getting started. You know, we talk to a lot of new agents, and they're always super excited because they've had, 2 or 3 people say they're pretty pumped to have them help them buy or sell a house, right? And the perception is you talk to one person, you get a deal. Is that true, Brandy?
No.
How many people do you have to talk to actually make money and to get a deal to closing?
That number evolves as you get better.
Yeah.
But quite a few. I mean, you have to have a large pipeline in down into those that are actually going to commit and write an offer and buy.
Totally. And so they talk about this concept of lead generation, right? So when you say, okay, typically when people hear, oh, you're getting your real estate license, you have one conversation here that says, boom, I'm thinking about buying or selling a house. Hey, great. When? Oh, probably next year. So that guy's 12 months out, right? You say, okay, here's one more guy, another cousin or relative or somebody says, well, I want to buy right now. So you got that guy. And then you got another one here, let's say. So you feel like you've had 3 pretty substantial conversations about buying and selling real estate. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
I'm Zach.
Zach.
What was yours?
Jeremy Manwaring is my name. What's your last name, Zach?
MP.
Empey? Zach Empey. What's your history, Zach? You brand new? You working with somebody? What do you?
Pretty much brand new.
Mhm.
I'm working with Jim's team.
Okay.
So
Sweet.
that's an ISA currently. So
Awesome.
it's good.
Are you just licensed? You been licensed a
Just
while?
licensed.
Got it. You had lots of conversations yet about real estate?
Well, yeah.
Good.
Quite a few.
Good.
I don't know if I can say tons and tons. Yeah, quite a few.
Good. Well, that's what we're talking about right now, is having these conversations about real estate with people that are referred to as a lead, right? So that's a lead. And so when, Zach just gets licensed, hopefully he has lots of conversations. But what I've kind of seen the pattern is that, people have 3 or 4 in their pocket. They think, once I get licensed, I'm selling these guys a house. And so you get real focused on just those 3, and you kind of run them to death until they get the deal, or they push you out and they're like, I'm actually a year, so we're going to wait. And so the activity in between, you don't have much else going on. And so you tend to fail if you don't keep people in that pool, right? Because it's not a ratio of have one conversation, close one deal. It's quite a bit more than that, right? What are your standards as an ISA?
I don't know that I have it.
No? Our standard for our team's ISAs are 40 contacts a day. So 40 conversations with people in this pool that have not signed a buyer or a seller rep. Or 150 dials. Hopefully both. And so as an ISA, you're going to kind of watch your numbers, and as leads get into there, as a single agent or a team, you want to start tracking this, because you'll know over time how many contacts it takes to get one listing. And as you start doing that, you can say, okay, if I know that, let's say it's 100 contacts equals one listing appointment. And then from the CGI calculator that Keller Williams does that in order to reach your goal, you've got to do clear down here. Let's say you want to make $200,000 in a year. And you know that takes 2 closed listings in a month. So then you can start working that middle ground and saying, okay, for every listing appointment, if I only close half of those into a contract, then I've got to have 200 contacts in order to get one listing agreement. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Because only half of the listing appointments you go into turn into a listing agreement. And then you're tracking that contact number here. And so then if the listings you take, if only half of those close, then you know that you've got to get 400 contacts in order to get one closed listing. So if you're tracking your numbers just on contacts, you know that that 400 contacts will get you $200,000 a year.
8.
No. 200 will get you a listing appointment. 400 will get you a closed listing.
One closed listing, but you want 2.
Oh,
so
you got to
you
get
need
2.
8.
Thank you. You probably are good at writing checks, balancing those things out. So you've got that number 800 contacts is how many you have to get, and that might be off. Obviously, we're using, but it might be close. You've got to get 800 contacts, and that's not to 200, to get to one closed listing.
You're
2
saying
closed
that's like a
listings.
monthly basis?
Is that 2?
800 is 2 closed.
2 closed. Now I'm not even watching because you were doing the math. I was trusting
See how
you.
you doing?
800. So it is 400 to one closed listing.
400 to 1.
Okay, so that's what I was going for earlier. So we'll leave it 800 to 2. So in order to get 2 closed listings a month, you got to have 800 contacts, right? So how are you going to do that? Right?
Yeah.
You've got to you have to have 800 conversations in order to reach your income goal.
A month?
Yes, a month, because
Yeah.
you got to get two closed listings in a month in order to hit your income goal, let's say. So then you can work it backwards and say, well, how many do I have to get in a day? If I'm all by myself and I've got to have 800 conversations in this leads pool in order to get them to the secondary pool, which are my appointments, right? This thing's terrible. And then from your appointments, you get contracts, right? And then you got closed deals, which is where the money is. So that sales funnel is kind of the idea that lead generation, you got to fill that bucket up as much as you can in as many areas as possible. Is that new for everybody, or is that kind of something you've seen before?
I've seen it.
It's somewhat new.
I've seen it before.
Sweet. Susan's seen it. Anybody dare me to use the permanent one?
Go ahead.
Josie would love that. So that
how
is,
you built that pool of people to call from?
yeah, good question.
That's the trick.
That is the trick.
You gotta call all these people.
You got to call all these people and have all these conversations. Where are you going to have it? Today is
With
one of those
everyone.
things. We're focusing on listings because that kind of creates opportunities by simply taking that contract. So does anybody know the ratio that Keller Williams says for every one listing, how many buyer deals you should get off of that one listing?
Is this like
50-50? 1-to-1? One listing is one buyer? I think they got something in this book about listings are leverage. You can close. Oh, that's time. So I've seen a couple different things, but basically, if you've got one buyer, think of buyers right now. How many buyers, how many extra buyers can you get from one buyer? Probably just the one. So if you got a buyer, you're probably only going to close him, right? But if you got a listing, how many buyer leads can you get off of that one listing?
Oh.
10.
Depends on your sign.
10?
That's good sign calls.
Yeah. 10 maybe? The number that we shoot for is 3.
No.
And I've heard 2, I've heard 4, I've heard 1. It's always more than 1. But the goal is that by having listings, you're picking up at least 3 buyer closed deals with every listing. So when you said 10, that's probably right. You're probably getting at least 10 to 15 new buyer contacts, but only 3 of them end up buying something. Not necessarily your listing, but you've taken them in as a buyer, gotten them under contract, had an appointment contract, and then close that deal. So if you have to do one activity and you're trying to find buyers or sellers, which one is the better leveraged activity, sellers or buyers? Sellers, right? Because you find one seller, you could have 3 other potential deals, which is 4 transactions, compared to the buyer pool, which is 1-to-1, which is pretty true. Zillow's changed that quite a bit, though, right? You guys know how Zillow works?
More or less.
It is a total trick, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You talk to people, they're like, I didn't understand what I was doing. I thought you were the agent on this thing.
Uh-huh.
So they've kind of taken, for your hard-earned money, they'll bait and switch the public, pretty much, right? And show the public that here's Zach, and he's got all these listings. So here's 123 Main Street. It doesn't say listed by Zach, but it says, here's your profile, contact me. So now you're the new agent on that.
Uh-huh.
And so they click it and they're like, oh, sweet. So you're using Zillow and buying your way into being a listing agent so you can get buyer leads.
There is no shame in that game.
There is no shame in that. It's just expensive.
It is.
Yeah. So how are you, if you're just starting out and you're getting your first deal, you probably could use Zillow. If you want to drop a couple $1,000 and get all the buyer leads immediately, you could probably get a deal or 2 right out of the gate. But there's a lot of things that go into Zillow, and I probably wouldn't recommend that. Right? Brandy, what do you think?
Right out the gate? That's a big investment.
What if you can't? What if you knock your head into the ground and you cannot get a listing? Would you tell somebody, yeah, go buy some Zillow lead and
No, because I want those leads.
awesome. So maybe Zillow's the way to go, right?
I think there's lots of opportunities for, so if you're not finding a listing with what you're doing, you need to change what you're doing. And I don't know that Zillow is really the answer for that. There's not a lot of listings that maybe come out of that. At that point, maybe you need to be focusing on how's your FSBOs. They've already raised their hand and said, I want to sell.
Right.
You know,
I haven't hired an agent yet.
And I haven't hired somebody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who else can you be networking with and talking to in order to find those things? Are you attending events like chamber luncheons? And I mean, there's so many places to network and generate an ability to have these conversations.
Totally.
That you don't necessarily need to put an outlay for Zillow.
Yeah.
Which brings in, I think, really honestly, more buyer leads.
Right.
Which isn't your goal of finding the listing.
Yep. Good point. Very good point. Yeah, FSBO. For sell by owners.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Leads, appointments, agreements. Oh, I was dang close. Look at that. Contracts. Appointment. Oh, I left out agreements in here. Same thing.
But you don't necessarily have to sign an agreement in order to get a contract. A purchase and sale contract. You don't have to represent.
You don't have to, for sure. That's right.
You do listen.
But if I'm taking on a buyer and I'm going to go show them a bunch of houses.
Oh yeah, I want their loyalty.
Yeah, you want some loyalty, and that's where that buyer rep comes in, right? So that's the numbers game. So don't get caught up with these three thinking that your life is made and that you're ready to retire, Bill, because you've got to have thousands in here, right? And while we're talking about that, you guys, you know the 33 touch, right?
They talk about it a lot.
So that's the math equation where you're going to your sphere, people that know you, you know them. They would give you business if they knew you were a real estate agent, right? And you're growing that database in that sphere on a daily basis, hopefully. But this is kind of changing, I think, with MREA 2. But the Model 1 says 12 to 1. And I think it's actually going up to 17 to 1 in the MREA 2. And what that says is that for every 12 people in your database, if you spend time contacting them 33 times in a year, 4 phone calls, 1 a quarter, you're going to call every one of them every 3 months. Say, hey, Brandy, it's Jeremy. Thanks for taking my call. Just checking in with you, see how the family is. You know anybody looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? No, you just called me 3 months ago. Hey, I just want to make sure that you remember what I do. 4 phone calls a year, postcards, you do a mailer once a month, and then the rest of it is typically email. So you do that 33 times in a year. For every 12 people you do that to, you should get 1 closed deal that year at some point. So if you've got 24 people in there, you should get 2 closed deals, right? So the equation works. If you say, okay, my goal is $200,000, I got to make it this year in 2018, you know that this is one way to grow your database, talk to that database, get deals out of that database. But that database has got to be big, right? You can't just work off one deal and say, oh man, they bought a $200,000 house. I got a big commission. That takes me for 2 months. That's how you lose in the game. All right, so we're talking about focus on listings because we know listings are leverage. There are 3 major benefits they talk about. Let's see if I can to the right slide here. Am I on the right one? Huh. Win the seller. Let's get started.
Page 12, I think, is where you're wanting to be.
Get Shredding the game. Well, let's watch that video. Videos. You guys seeing the video thing?
Which video?
Good question. The guys in Pocatello?
Not yet.
Oh,
Let's see here.
Well,
So far, you're the star.
Man, I look good. I can see myself. Tell you what. Okay, videos.
Hi, I'm Josh Bath from Vancouver, Canada. I'm with Keller Williams for 8 years and been selling real estate for 18 years. Now I'm going to walk you through my listing presentation, and it's a 3-step process. First part is preparation, second part is presentation, and the third part is follow-up. A lot of my listings come by way of referral and repeat. And so when the call comes in and they want me to come over and list their home, I have a conversation about what their needs are. What exactly is it you're looking to do? Are you moving up? Are you moving down? I have them tell me exactly what the reasons are that they're selling for. I get a real sense of what direction that they want to go. One of the things that we've done to make my appointment setting a little easier is we've time blocked. We follow what Gary says. He says time block everything that you do. And we've time blocked our slots in advance for listing appointments. Every day, Monday to Friday, we have a slot available at 4 o'clock and a second slot available at 5:30. So I've got a potential of 10 listing appointments Monday to Friday. That makes my life a lot easier because I'm able to time block my lead generation first thing in the morning and not have my day so loose and scattered, so I'm trying to scramble on where to put a listing appointment.
Oh, you almost did it.
What we do now in our team is we've decided to go paperless with our evaluations, our CMAs. So instead of printing off paper, what we'll do is we'll take it on the computer and convert it to PDF, mark it up with a highlighter from there on the computer, and then create an email from that. Email that package off to our client prior to going out to their home to list it.
Was it
What
over?
I do when I go on a listing presentation is I meet the sellers at the door, and I have them take me on a tour
Okay,
of the
And
property.
then just stop share when you're done.
During that time, I'm actually
Do you see
asking them to tell me again, to recap again, what their motivation is for selling. So I'm getting them more comfortable with them moving out of their house is what I'm doing. That usually takes about 5 minutes. And when we're done there, we transition right over to the kitchen table. We'll talk about the market, the evaluation itself, and that in itself is about 15 minutes. Once we've agreed upon a price that we're going to list at, we'll sign a listing contract. They sign the initial 3-page contract. They sign the property disclosure statement, and they sign the working with a realtor brochure. Outside of those 3 documents, that's it. I send in my measuring company to come in and measure the home. I send in my stager who's going to contact them to come in and stage the home. And once she's done, then I send in a photographer and take the photos of the home. We always do a follow-up with them as well, just to say, how did that go? What was that experience like for you? Keeps them feeling like they're in control and very much a part of the process. And it lets them know that we're paying attention to every detail on their listing prior to it even being on the market. One of the expectations that I set with the sellers is that I phone them twice a week on purpose. So I set their expectation for me to phone them on Monday mornings with what's called a Monday morning update, where I review everything that's happened for their home over the past weekend with them. The second call that I set them up for to expect is on Fridays, and that's a Friday morning market update. And what I've set them up for is that I'm going to talk to them about any new listings that have hit the market, any expires that have come off the market, and any solds that have actually just happened since that past week. They also know that on Friday, we're going to be talking about the numbers. Does the current list price that we're at right now still make sense in relation to the latest listings or the most current solds? They know in advance that that conversation could lead to a price reduction. And a lot of times, they bring that on themselves. They say, hey, look, you know what? It looks like we might be a bit high, Josh. Should we bring it now? So it's a natural transition to a price reduction. One of the reasons I choose not to do a pre-listing package is when I'm sitting in front of them, I really want their full focus and attention. I want their attention on me, and I want to be able to ask them questions where they're giving me their full attention and not flipping through a pre-listing package. Most of their questions are going to come straight from their gut, and that's really what I'm looking for. I'm Josh Bath, and I just shared my listing presentation with you, and I wish you all the best with yours.
Interesting. He said he must have said, "Don't use the pre-listing packet in the presentation, but give them one." Because the whole next section is all about the pre-listing package. Stop share, right?
Yeah.
Pause share. Good enough. Stop share. Graham again, man. All right. Anything new you guys learned from that video? Brandy, anything stand out to you that you thought was amazing?
I liked the follow-up after kind of each step of the process with the stager and the pictures and the listing and when it's actually up. I think sometimes sellers feel like now that we're signed, we don't talk to them anymore. Like,
Yeah.
And nobody cares, and we just have this stupid sign in front of our yard, and it's just inconvenienced our life because
Totally.
now we're on the market. So I think making sure that, and I like these twice a week updates, talking to them about what happened over the weekend, and then setting up for the price reductions. I mean, those things are something that should be in your listing presentation anyways.
Mm-hmm.
It's automatically preparing them that we're going to be reducing the price. If we don't, if we don't sell, it's price determines. That's the driver of all of it.
Totally. Great. Anybody else?
Like how he tried to get even the owners in the habit of expecting a call Monday and Friday.
Yeah.
Rather than kind of being sporadic. They never know when they're going to hear from you, and you never know when they're going to call you.
Totally.
Call you.
Yeah.
On your feedback for your showings, because you guys send out the automatic request.
Right.
Do your sellers get those?
Immediately. Yep.
So as soon as an agent fills those out, they
Goes
get
to
that
them.
response.
Yep. Is that good? Bad?
Yeah. So maybe it's after I'll talk to you about what we need to do to how we set that up for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And they like that because, especially if they've been listed before, they're like, man, just what you said. I never heard from the agent. I never knew why I showed it a ton of times, but no one bought my house, and I don't know what the heck happened.
Nobody likes the ugly thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can tell you one reason is this carpet.
Right, but sometimes as agents, we try to tell them, well, I think your carpet's not good, but then I think that the people perceive that as, well, they just want to make more money on me. And really,
Totally.
it's not, I mean, yeah, we're all here to make money, but ultimately, I think when we're walking into someone's home, I have their best interest at heart.
Yeah.
The carpet needs stretched and cleaned,
Exactly.
or it's in rough shape. I'm just telling you what I'm going to say a buyer's going to say.
Yep, yep.
So,
And I'll tell you, they won't believe you unless they trust you.
right.
And how do you build that trust when you're going in to basically negotiate against them in their mind to get the contract, right?
Right.
So it's a interesting dance that you have to do with sellers sometimes because, you're competing with other great agents in the area and you want to get them to trust you and believe you and sign a listing agreement. And the whole time they're already questioning everything that you say.
Right.
Like, what's your real intention? I don't know
We're on
you.
the level of dentists and used car salesmen.
Dentists?
Nobody likes the dentist.
We're like the used car salesman that drills cavities out. Not bad. We got a new guy in the back with Morgan, looks like, huh?
That's right.
What's your name?
Aaron.
Aaron? What's your last name, Aaron?
Briggs.
Aaron Briggs? We got Susan Briggs in Pocatello.
That's my dad's wife.
Hey!
Is she on?
She's on. Say hi.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Aaron.
Awesome. Are you, tell us a little about yourself.
About me?
Yeah.
I'm a
New?
buyer's agent for Morgan. I've been 3 weeks now.
3 weeks. Sweet. You put a deal together yet?
Yeah, we got a there was a better offer. But yes, so we're still looking.
Sweet. So you've been through it and been a little bit exposed to everything so far. Good for you. Well, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah.
So we're talking about listings and how they should be our focus because they bring the biggest leverage to our business. So listings provide more exposure. Advertise your listing, get your name out there in a big way. You guys see signs all the time for everybody, right? So if you're the one dominating signs, I mean, it's like you can go pay $500 for a month for a billboard or just blast your own signs out there all over, right? Listings bring buyers. Even if the buyer does not choose to buy the property, they may be interested in other properties. And listings are time leverage. So I think that's what that guy was talking about. It says you can close on 2 or 3 seller listings to every 1 buyer listing in the same time exerted. You believe that? Sometimes. I bet on average, probably. You get a buyer that wants to look at 400 properties in a year. That happens sometimes.
Tough sellers too.
Yeah, it's true. But it's always about price, right? They're realistic and they want to sell. You can always drop the price and get that thing sold.
Sometimes there's not room to move.
Yeah, true.
They don't have the room to move.
So they can't get a realistic number.
Which forces them on the market longer. So it creates this conflict.
Totally right. All right. So let's see if we can get the this thing rolling again. Make it happen. Did we watch this one? That's not the one we watched, is it? Listing presentation? No. Make it happen. Working with sellers. Has anyone been on a seller listing appointment? Brandy has been. Was it someone you knew or was it someone you had just met?
I've done both.
Mm-hmm.
One it was a floor call actually.
Sweet.
Yeah. He come in. He had bought his house a month ago and needed to sell.
In a month?
Yeah. He ended up having to move to a retirement home, and so.
Got it.
But I mean, I didn't know him from Adam,
Mm-hmm.
so put together a presentation of what I thought we could try to sell his house for, and protect his investment. Talked a lot about the fact that he was going to spend some money, he was going to lose money.
Yeah.
On that, and so that we were upfront. We just had to talk about really where our bottom line was, so that we could adjust prices accordingly.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And Zach, you're setting up listing appointments. Have you set one up yet?
No,
not quite yet. So this will be important for all of us because you can go on 1 million listing appointments, and if you don't pre-qualify that guy somehow before you go out, that seller, you could be wasting a lot of time. So I think that's the first thing we'll talk about. Maybe that's how this thing goes. And then we'll talk about a pre-listing packet, and then we'll go into that video. So, yeah, maybe that's. Let me see what's next here. Yeah, they're getting right into the listing appointment. So let's talk about pre-qualifying the seller. So when you call to set the appointment, you want to confirm all the details, including their motivation. And if you do anything right, talk about their motivation. It just starts to build a rapport with people, right? If you just show up and say, this is a house, let's sell it, here's how much you can get, you have no rapport, no trust, no confidence personally with that person because you don't know anything about them. When you start asking motivation questions, you start getting to know them and why they're moving and why it's important, and then you can talk about their personal life a bit while you're talking about selling their house. What are some motivating questions that you've ask people, Brandy, to figure out what their motivation to sell is and why they're going?
I mean, honestly, just why are you wanting to sell? What's brought you to this decision? Or sometimes they announce, "Oh, we're pregnant." Oh, fantastic! So we need to find you a bigger house, or the kids have moved out, so we're wanting to downgrade. Just talking about. I actually had one lady who said she hated her kitchen because the fridge and the stove touched, and she couldn't handle it any longer. She needed a different house.
I've had those too. and that is it, right?
And that was it.
That's
she
it.
She hated it. She hated waking up every morning and her fridge and stove touched.
So is that wrong? That she didn't like that?
No.
Heck no.
Not. I sold it. So
is that a material fact you have to disclose to the next?
I
don't know. Maybe. No, that is perfect. If you can get to the root of why they're moving and you understand that the whole time, you are now an ally, right? It's like, holy cow, that's the worst thing ever. I don't know how you've lived this long with it. Let's get you out of here, right? Let's go. But if you don't know that and they don't tell you that, you may be trying to figure out other things. So a good conversation about why you're moving, what will that do for you when that happens, and what does your life look like now that that's out of the way, right? Those are good things. What am I keep? Oh, there are speakers over here. Must be Susan. You sneezing, Susan? So it also helps you avoid wasting your time on those who aren't truly serious about selling their property. That's a big one. Zillow has this thing called Make Me Move. You guys seen that? A homeowner can go on to Zillow and say, make me move, and they put some ridiculous number out there, and then it puts their home like available to buyers if you'll pay my price. Now, they're not that motivated. We don't have to move. Somebody wants to pay us $500,000 for this $200,000 house, we'll move. All right, so there's a pre-qual sheet. I didn't see it in here. It has some pre-qualifying questions. Our ISAs ask these, and we're trying to get super consistent on these. But the first thing they say is, how'd you hear about me? You think it's important to kind of track your activity that leads to a phone call? Where are you moving? What's motivating you to move there? How soon do you have to be there? Oh, we're having a baby. Hey, great. When's it due? You want to be in the house before the baby or just after the baby? What are you thinking? What would happen if your home did not sell? How much do you want to list your home for? Well, that's why I'm calling you. What are you telling me I need to list for? How much do you owe on the property? And then I'll be sending you a packet of information. Will you have a few minutes to review it before we meet? Do you guys do a pre-listing package, Michelle?
No.
I'm not sure if many people are consistent on that. Do you guys do one, Morgan? Jim, does he do one?
Not that.
They're difficult. We've got them and we have tried to do them and they're tough. I'd like to, now that I've reviewed this again, I can see the benefit of doing it because you send them a packet of info, and in the packet you've got a lot of your marketing things. It says, here's our team, this is what we do, here's some of the marketing things that we do. It has a whole thing that they start filling out. And it kind of makes them work, So when you show up and they've got this sitting there and all the questions are filled out, you think they're serious about getting their house sold?
Yeah.
Way more serious than the make me move guy, right? And then on this side, we've got, it kind of explains the team concept and what we do. what buyers are looking for, how to stage their house, those kind of things.
Before you ever meet with them, so you just
No, we actually have that thing. I can pass that around. You can look through it. So when we set the appointment and they commit to it, we try to get it to them that day. And so our sign guy that runs signs around, we have him take those over and knock on the door and say, hey, is Lori? You have an appointment tomorrow with Jeremy. We wanted to drop this off so we're prepared for the meeting. Yeah, we got cookies and popcorn and a little thing that says, here's your homework. You got to do the homework and then get them prepped for that meeting. So when you show up, it's like, okay, they at least have some level of understanding of me and what we do. And so when you're trying to bridge that gap between, I'm here to close you down and get you to sign a contract to, I want you to sign that contract because we have so much confidence in what we do. We know we can sell your house, and gives them a little bit of exposure to our process and that kind of thing. And then you ask them if they have any questions. And number 14, will all the decision makers be there when we meet? How do you overcome, I have to talk to my wife. I got to talk to my husband. They're not here. Anybody got one?
Should I call right now?
Good. I've done that.
Cell phones at work.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's get him on the phone. Let's talk to him. Let's do the 45-minute thing I just did with you again with your husband on the phone because now I got to start over, right? Susan, what do you think?
Oh, sorry. Well, I think it's really important that you just have both people there. You ask what time that they can get together and have questions ready and meet with you.
Way better. Have you ever tried to? I used to try this. I'd say, you know what? Is there any other reason you kind of isolate, right? Other than talking to your husband, you feel like we do a good job for you. Is there any other reason that you wouldn't sign with me today and get the ball rolling and get your home listed with us? No, as long as they're on board, I'm ready to go. Hey, perfect. Let's sign with you now. And then let's talk to your husband and make sure it's okay because we want him to be on the same page. Isn't that right? Yeah, that's right. That's a little difficult sometimes. Way better to say, will all the decision makers be there? So how important is that pre-qual before you get out there? Super important. It's all up to you, Zach, right? ISA. And then there's a statement at the bottom. Just so you know, our meeting will take between 20 and 45 minutes. I look forward to meeting with you, boom, on this time. So the pre-listing packet, you can kind of see there's a bunch of information in your packets. I don't know if you guys have them. Looks like you printed that out, Brandy. And it talks, if all you do, so many people I think are scared to do anything until it's perfect and to send anybody anything until it's perfect and you customize it and you get it all ready. If all you do is plug in your name to the Keller Williams thing and print it out, you are now 10 steps ahead of the next guy that you're competing against. What do you think?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be amazing or perfect. It just needs to be something that you're doing that's a little more effort than the next guy, and that puts you a little bit ahead, I think. And Keller Williams has all this stuff in the thing, right? How do you find it? Which section can you get all this stuff? Isn't there is it education?
There's a marketing. There's all kinds of places that you can find these, and then too, there's like title companies.
Yeah.
Like Title One has Breakthrough Broker. Have you ever looked at any
I
of their
haven't.
things?
I use
So
their net sheet all day.
I love their net sheet,
Yeah.
but they have some fun presentation packets.
I didn't know that.
It's called Breakthrough Broker, and you have to create a username and password, whatever they set that up for you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can put your brand in there, but you end up kind of co-branded with them.
Yeah.
So,
And you have to pay them $5 a year.
Yeah. So
I've done it. It looks sweet.
but,
Our logo's right on
I mean,
the thing.
there's things that we can do. I mean, then there's other companies who will call brand.
Yeah.
So
No, that's awesome. So yeah, don't be worried about making it super fancy and super customized. Huh? Yeah, just Google it. And so send them a guide to selling your home. I'll let you guys read this stuff on your own. We can spend our time talking about other things, but talks the guide to selling your home says I will help you by giving you these 10 points of contact, understanding, blah, blah, blah. Get ready to list. It helps the seller prepare to list their home. What do they do? Price, location, condition. All those things are important. Talks about the market analysis. Get ready to sell. It gets into the price. It's not really in this, but do you guys know how to create a good market analysis and how to get comps out of Navica? That's something you're familiar with? Feel like you could do it pretty good? Should we spend a couple minutes doing one?
yeah,
Yeah? No?
Yeah, well,
it's really kind of justifying when you, as a newer agent, and you do one, and then you have someone who's maybe more experienced, and they come in with their price, and you're close, and you're like, I wasn't so
Totally.
far off. Maybe I do know what I'm doing, and that's kind of confidence boosting.
It totally is. Do you know why you're close? Because you're not creating the price. You're just finding out what the market says the price is, right? And so you've done a good job when you can see, I wonder what my password is here.
Need me to log in
Maybe. Whoa, I really don't know it, huh?
in Naviga.
Whoops, I don't want to forget my password. Yeah, come and log in.
Don't mess it all up. Your gals will be mad at you. I don't need Anna calling me and being like, "What did you let him do?"
Exactly.
No.
Hey! It didn't work for you either.
Is caps lock on? How do you tell if it's okay? So that's off.
Oh, it was on, wasn't it? Looked like it was.
Let's see. Oh, now I don't know if I got it right.
I thought it was me.
Hmm.
They don't want you using Navigate here.
It doesn't
Pocatello,
like that
you're
one
not even
either.
on Navica, are you, Pocatello?
No, they're on Paragon.
Luckies.
Okay. I'll try one more. Then I don't know.
What the heck, right? I thought I used both of the cool passwords I usually use. One more time. No, that can't be it.
Just can't get in.
Can't log into Navica? Oh, she just fixed it.
What? I didn't fix anything.
Yeah,
Technology behaves when I come around.
just trying to get into Navica. I'm in.
You're in. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a problem finding the other video?
Not yet.
Okay. Perfect.
Keyword yet.
Not yet, that's for sure. Okay, so prepping for the meeting. How tough is it to sign somebody at the listing if you don't know what their house is worth? A little tougher, right? So if you're prepping for the meeting and you at least know, before you see it about what the house is supposed to be worth, then you can have that conversation about price right then. And if you're having a conversation about price, then let's talk about how to get price. You guys seeing the Navica on here now? No?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, they can see it, but you can't see it. So how do I get it on this screen, I wonder?
We can see it.
Maybe Alt Tab.
Yeah. Huh.
Can you click it? Just grab it and drag it over.
Click it and drag it into where?
The other monitor, which is the screen. Yep.
There we go.
Sweet.
All right. Who's got a property that they want to know a value on? Let's do yours. Residential?
Yep.
So is it easier to find a super comparable house or make adjustments on houses that are similar but not? What's a better strategy? Big adjustments or just finding better comps?
I tried really hard to find really good comps.
That is what I would say too. If you can find the exact house that just sold last month and it has the identical things that your house has, you don't have to make any adjustments. You have just identified the market, right? So let's try to find the perfect comps to the house instead of try to create a Frankenstein house from one that's not like it at all. All right, so what would you do, Brandy?
So single family, and I would kind of depends on the bedroom. So if I know that this is a 5-bedroom one, I would probably go like 4 and 2. If I know if it's like a 5,
So
5
minimum 4,
no,
minimum 2.
those are half
Oh,
baths.
half baths.
So just 2 bathrooms.
Oh man, I'm on bathrooms here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you scroll back up, there's bedrooms. So I would probably do like 4 and 2, because sometimes you can get in some that might be comparable. That's where I'm looking at them for. And then I will look specifically in that county.
Let's move a house up here so we know what we're dealing with. What's the address?
It's just my house right now, 5286.
We can't see that screen online.
Oh, now you guys can't see Navica? TREYD.
No. I've got the invalid password screen up.
That's what I'm see if I get over here.
Your screen, is that where you need to do it? Through the Zoom thing?
Yeah, I think I got the. How's that?
Is it supposed to be the Snake River MLS?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got it now.
Okay.
Thank you.
This will be a little different for Pocatello. All right, so we're looking for how do you spell it?
TREY.
EY.
DEN.
All right, so if I go to the most recent, we're a 5 and a 3 with 2621 and 3-car garage built in 07. So I usually just use these. If you start with just these numbers, you can kind of start whittling away, right? Year built. It almost tells you your finished square footage in the basement too, because you got 5 and 3. You typically have something down there finished.
Right.
If you're looking at comparables, you want to get single families that, let's look at the pending and the closed.
I like to look pending, closed, and I like to see what else is active on the market, because those are also things that I'm competing against right now.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, that's good. Let's stick with the pending and closed, and then we'll look at actives. So you go 4-bedroom.
I'll do 4 and 2.
Okay, 2 bath. And then let's bracket square footage. 26, 21.
So 25 to 27.
25 to 27. Oh. And then how do you do your area?
So I will choose Bonneville. Unless, for this one, Bonneville would work, because that's a home that you're going to find almost anywhere. It's pretty standard kind of home in most subdivisions. Sometimes I will reduce it by school, high school.
Yeah, high school boundaries are good in our area. And then year built, you were 2007, you said?
I think it was 2007, yeah.
2007, so let's go no older than 2000 and maybe
2015.
Yep. Give us that bracket. And then, since we know your house is, we don't want to compare it to 2 stories, right? So let's go only 1 level. And let's only bring in 3-car garage.
And I'm kind of a less is more girl. So I will pull in more comps and then uncheck boxes as I can, because I would rather see more information and then choose and whittle down that way than to necessarily pull them all out from my initial search.
Okay. So based on that, how many did it give us? Can't see it.
Can't see it.
Why is it like that? There we go. There's only 2 comps it gave us.
2 pendings.
And they are pending. So there's no sold comparables? How is that? We better maybe change your square footage. I would leave that one. I would go with maybe widen our square footage. Once you get into that 3-car, if you start comparing to a 2-car, it's quite a bit. In my opinion, the buyers want that 3rd car in certain price range. So you got 2 closed and 2 pending. Let's run those. This is the last 6 months. Those look pretty good, so let's view all these. Start seeing the interior pictures, percentage of basement finished, and kind of how that compares to your property.
So you can kind of decide if your subdivisions are going to be close too.
Totally, that too. But at least you got the big blocks out of the way, right? You know the year built, the size is similar. So you could get an adjusted price per foot, and then, when you show up, you say, well, here's one on Vision. And if I showed them just these 4, and I talk about saying, hey, this, as we're preparing to get your home on the market, if we're looking at what we think your home will sell for, here are 4 that just sold. 2 of them just sold, and 2 of them are pending a sale. So someone has placed a contract in place, and they're willing to buy this property. How does yours compare to this? If they don't have granite countertops and their basement is half finished, then you're going to make an adjustment for that, right? But you're right. Whether you're brand new or you're a super veteran, the market tells you what people will pay, and it's usually within $3 to $5 per foot. Once you make that adjustment, somehow buyers are just paying the same price for property. And if you can figure that out, then you can provide good information, and you can get that listing, because you're not just showing up saying, I'll take whatever price you say you want, or whatever Zillow says, right?
And Zillow's terrible for pricing.
It's the worst. Every once in a while they're close, but it's if you use the same method they use, then you're gonna have the same outcome, right? Which is not that impressive. But you can see we're in a pretty close range on each one of these for your place. Yeah, with right in there within
Yeah, they're all
10,000
right.
feet or 10,000 bucks. Awesome. You guys done that before?
I did it earlier today, actually.
Oh, sweet. What method do you use to get those comps?
Similar.
Similar?
Morgan and I did it based on subdivision.
Yeah, that's a good way. If you have enough comps, right?
Yeah, which there were like 7. So.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, like Calico Sky, the turnover in Calico Sky is phenomenal. So you can pull lots of solds right there in that subdivision.
Yeah. So as you're preparing to go on a listing appointment, and this guy lives in Calico Sky, and you've got all 7 of those comps, and they're like, oh, man, I know that guy. I've seen that house. I saw that. Well, here are the details. And here's what it looked like inside. Based on this, what would you have paid if you kind of turn it back on them and say, well, you bought your house. Have you guys seen that one that video from Mega Camp a few years ago? It is amazing. The guy that does Language of Cells. Have you guys done Language of Cells or heard of that? He did a listing presentation with Gary Keller and just closed him down. Gary couldn't believe it. But he lays them all out there and says, okay, let's put your buyer hat on now, and pretend like you're here to buy one of these houses, and that you pull the actives in there or the solds, either one, and you say, here are the 4 homes that are available. Which one would you buy? Say, oh, I'd probably buy that one. Okay, so this one is based on, these are for the actives. Based on what you said, this is the best one and the best value for your money. So what would you want to offer on that? Then they look at it and say, well, it's been listed for 2 weeks. I probably want to pay $249. Okay, so $249, and how does this compare to your house now? And then you go through that process, and if it's a little bit better, a little worse, then they're already saying, I think my house is worth about $249. And they're coming to that conclusion rather than you saying your house is worth $249. And as you educate them, then they start to trust you as like, man, you really know the market. You understand me. You understand my house. And you understand that guy sold, and I'm probably going to sell with him. And so you're getting on the same page with them, and you're getting that listing price to sell. There's a graphic in here. Let's see if I can find it now. All right. Get the right screen up. We're at the listing appointment. We did the big greet, walk through the house, listing presentation. I want to get to the one that says, oh man, we're already to the end? Oh, I get it. You guys are supposed to have these printed out or something available to you. Okay, that's why it's not on the screen. Let's watch the other video. Listing presentation. Wait a minute, that's the one we already watched, isn't it?
Yeah.
So where's the first one? Oh, develop your skills. Let's watch that one. See if that does any good.
Hi, my name is Gene Rivers, and I'm here today to tell you how to develop your listing skills to a very high level. And after you've done that, you'll be able to go in and take over market share. Number one, the best source for listing leads is from your sphere and past client list. The fact is, the people you know know the people that are going to be moving, whether it's at church, school, work, friends, relatives. Focus on making sure they understand you're in the listing business. Create a pre-listing package that you would give every seller, but rename it your guide to selling homes successfully in your market. And then give that to people in your database that you know have influence, as collateral materials that they can give to their friends and refer you. Step 2, focus on an area, product, or price range. When you develop mastery of a product or an area, you will much more quickly succeed in those areas. And in that area or in that product or price range, focus on the FSBOs in that area, the expireds in that area, door knock in that area, geographic farm in that area, and I'm talking a fairly tight area, so that the people in that area will really, really identify with you as someone who can help them sell property for top dollar with low hassle in a short amount of time. Now we're at number 3. Everyone today that's looking at hiring an agent, whether it's a referral, even a past client, or a stranger who's gotten your name somehow, they're going to check you out on the web. So you need to make sure that your website is competent, that you've got basic, powerful content in there, and specifically that on the landing page, the very opening page, there is a direct offering to a seller. Find out what your home is worth, get a guide to selling your home. But if you don't do that, you're going to miss opportunities, because people will get your name, check your website out, and go, I don't think so. I've seen a lot better sites. Fix your website with a database that you are working on a consistent basis. And with a tight focus, you build your reputation. If you're visible, you will find you will take over more and more listings, and in a very short amount of time, 12 to 24 months, you will own that market. That's how you take market share.
Money. So does that help Zach to know where you get all these conversations?
Yeah.
What did you pick up from that?
Yeah, he said your sphere was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Focusing on getting referrals from them. He also mentioned, the door knocking and all that.
So what do you do with your sphere?
Keep in touch with them.
Keep in touch with them, right? How many times a year? 33. I think that's going up a little bit. 37, I think they're calling. 37 to convert. So for how many people in your sphere can you count on one deal through that 33 touch? For every 12 people, right now is what they say. They think it's going to be 17, kind of adjusting. Let's call it 17. For every 17 people in your sphere, you should get one closed deal a year if you effectively do that 33 touch. So if that's the only thing you do, and you know what your income goal is and what your average price per deal and average commission, you should be able to look at your business as a business and not a big fat question mark. Like, what am I going to do this year? How much am I going to make? Well, you'll know what you'll make if you do your business plan and you know the 33 touch. What's the second thing they said to do for listings? Reach out to who? Did you guys see that video in Pocatello?
Yeah.
What's another place to get listings, they said?
Church.
Church? Part of your sphere, right?
Yep.
So if it's sphere, they also said for sell by owners. Who have you guys called for sell by owners? They're fun, right? Brandy's right though. They already said, "Hey, I'm going to sell my house, and I haven't hired an agent." What's the other one he said? Expireds. What's an expired?
They were listed and it's no longer listed. Their contract's up.
They were listed. They didn't sell. They fell out of contract because it expired from the MLS. So we know at one time they wanted to sell. Maybe their motivations changed. Maybe whatever it is, right? What was the last thing he said? website was a big one once you're rolling. I think you said farming.
Yes.
How do you farm in real estate? Susan, any ideas?
Oh, I don't think she's on here anymore.
Oh, Susan.
Can you stop share though?
Sure.
Oh, because then you guys want to see me, of course.
We do.
I get that all the time. There we go. Who knows what that means?
Is it sending out like flyers or cards to addresses in an area?
Exactly. How long did he say it would take to dominate a market? He said a short period of time. 12 to 24 months, right? In 2 years, you're going to dominate. What do you do for the next 2 years, right? You got to make some money somewhere. But I would bet, so farming, if that's, I mean, do you do one, you just pick one of these, or do you try to do them all?
So my one thing with this though is considering the size of Tallahassee versus considering the size of Idaho Falls. There's he talked about keeping it as a tight spot, and I agree that we should probably be tight, but our concept of tight could be Rexburg-ish to Blackfoot-ish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we might go even as far as to Pocatello, but maybe not extend to American Falls. So our idea of where we're going to focus our market and our expertise, I think that Tallahassee's huge.
It's huge.
There's millions of people there, and so it's just a much different marketing idea as far as trying to build and take over this one little spot versus where our market is so spread out.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of our geography here.
No, you're exactly right.
Not that those things aren't accurate and still work, but I mean,
last week, how many expired listings came up from the entire MLS last week? Does anybody know?
Not many.
Like 10, maybe. If in this market right now, there's not many at all. So if I said, okay, Brandy, in the next 7 days, I want you to go get a listing, or you're getting kicked out of real estate. Which of these activities are you going to focus on so you don't get kicked out of real estate?
I'm calling my sphere.
Calling your sphere all day long, right? That's the number one source of lead generation, that you can add people to the sphere, call them up and ask them, because they are your cheerleaders. They're the people that want you to have business. So if you get enough feelers out there all the time, and you're talking to your friends and they're talking to their friends, and they're overhearing someone at work say, I got to sell my house. Hey, you need to call Brandy. And they know to say that. That is an awesome way to get it. What's the second thing you'll do?
Swallow your fear and call FISBO.
Right. What do you say to them?
Would you hire me?
How do you know what to say to a for sale by owner when you call them up? Scripting, right? You don't have to make up anything. You get a script off of the KW Connect, whatever it is. Bold. Did you take Bold? Were you in there? Yeah, we partied hard in Bold. But there are a million scripts that you don't have to make it up, and you don't have to get nervous. And the weirdest thing is when someone answers the phone, it's a human being. It's weird. You just talk to them, and they talk back, and it's like, oh, weird. I was so scared, but you're just a human. So there is a fear, but you get over that fear once you start making those dials. And they all say about the same thing. So if you know what to say back to them from those scripts, you can get appointments from for sale by owners. You got 7 days. If you can get an expired appointment, that's a pretty good option. Can you get an appointment in 7 days from farming? Can you get a listing from farming an area? Farming is
do a lot of walking. It's
right.
a lot of legwork. Not impossible.
Farming is like, so I live in Shamrock Park. This is Sunnyside. This is 25th Street. This is some other thing. So I'm saying, since I live right here, there's a good chance that these people that live in my neighborhood may know my name. And so I'm going to start there. And I also did some research and know that that the average time people live in my neighborhood is 5 to 7 years is the turnover rate. You can get this data from places. And so every time a house sells, I'm going to send it to them and say, hey, I live over here, Shamrock Park. Guess what? This guy just sold. Here's what he sold for. You ever thought about selling your house? Hey, this guy just sold. He sold for this. You ever thought about selling your house? And every time that happens, I've got 120 people that I'm farming to all the time. So that is a longer term, but now I am the guy. I'm the specialist in that area. And if anybody sells a house or buys a house, I tell everybody else through email or knocking their door, right? How about, have you ever done an effective open house?
Define effective.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So, and the reason that we've been told to do open houses really isn't to sell the house that we're doing it. It is a lead gen device, right? So once you have that listing, one listing, or call somebody that has a listing, they'll more than likely let you do an open house on their listing. But you go out and you knock the 50 closest neighbors. What are you saying to them?
When we've done that, we have taken a flyer with us, our open house flyer, and just have said, hey, we're just having an open house. You know, we'd love to have you come over. This is your chance to pick your neighbor. You know of anybody who's looking to buy or sell. So, I mean, it's just kind of, but it's super fast. I mean, you're not standing there having long conversations with them. It's just knocking on the door. We're having an open house.
Yeah.
We'd love to see you come. Let your neighbor know.
Perfect. Our other goal, because we're also calling, we've got a system that we call, let's see, in our morning lead gen, we each take 50 numbers. And there's usually 6 to 7 of us every morning. So let's say we call 300 of the closest neighbors. And the reason that we're calling those neighbors and the reason that we do those door knocking is to add people into this database, because we know the more people we add to this database and we communicate with them 33 times a year, our number just went up to get this deal here. Right? So if we do an open house and I'm standing at the door and I'm like, hey, I'm just here to invite you. No soliciting. I'm not soliciting. I'm just inviting you to the neighbor. They wanted to invite you to see if you wanted to come look at their house. You know anybody looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? No. Here's the flyer. Have you guys ever thought about selling your house? No, not anytime soon. Well, where do you get your information to make sure you understand what the market's doing in your neighborhood? Are you interested to know what this house sells for once we sell it, so you kind of know how that's going to affect your place? Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Give me your name, number, email address. I'll send you the information. Boom. They are now in our 33 touch that Anna manages. And it's a brainless thing that I do and our people do to fill that database, because we know for every 17 we'll get one of those. And that's the long game, right? That's not a listing in 7 days, but it definitely is an activity that works over time. And then the same thing when we dial those 300 homes. This is a number that you guys may like or hate, but this is typically our numbers. And one day, if we have 50 numbers, we will talk to 6 to 10, we'll get 6 to 10 contacts out of 50 dials, cold calling a neighborhood around an open house. Same script. Hey, we're having an open house on Saturday. Smith's over on blah, blah, blah. Wanted to invite you, see if you knew anybody that is interested in living in the neighborhood. No. Have you ever thought about selling your house? Maybe. I mean, if I had to go back, I would probably say it probably takes maybe 600 contacts, and we will get one listing appointment. So if that's the only activity that I do, and I know that it takes 600 contacts, well, how many number dials do I have to get 600 contacts to get one listing appointment? It's all a math problem, and it works every single time. It's a numbers game. You start tracking those, understanding, you know what activity to do and at what level you have to do it to get the results on this side that takes you to the money. So are you committed to that activity, or are you just pipe dreaming the money? It's a hard business. And if you know what it takes to get the listing, then you know that listing leads to buyers, and you can get more buyers off of listings. So, but filling up that database and knowing those numbers, like what's my best activity? Well, if you haven't done this yet, that's where you start. Do you have a database you've given to Jim with 200 of your closest friends and relatives, at least? Name, email, address, phone number? That's what you do. You start calling those guys. Right, Brandy?
Yeah. I have a different deal worked out with Michelle. Because cold calling is like, I told her, I said, I'd rather stand naked in the lobby and greet people.
Hey, we've all seen you in a bikini.
This is true on my thing. But
maybe you don't mind that much.
I told her I would rather do that than cold call. So because that is totally not one of my talents. However, I can talk to somebody that has been talked to already. So
that is a drunk monkey. You would do amazing on cold calls.
I have a different thing set up for her, and so I work along in her nurtures.
Got it.
And that's because that's really one of my talents is nurturing all along relationships. And so if she has cold called them and they're in our database, I can call and continue to build those relationships with them. And I can do that all day long. And I realize it is a drunk monkey, but it is totally one that terrifies me. I would sit in an office for 8 hours and not be able to make the phone call.
You know what? They say leverage out your weakness. And if that's identified for you as your weakness,
totally is.
Then you leverage it to somebody else and focus on your strength, right?
But I can nurture a relationship. You put somebody in front of me and I can talk to them.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Not a biggie. But that's where I think a lot of my sales training was from banking. And so I would get a client in front of me.
You know what to do with that client.
Once I can get you there, then I can help make them a sticky client.
Yeah.
I want your loan. I want your kid's account. I want your home. I want all of those things.
Yeah.
And I can talk you into bringing me that business. So that's a talent that I do have. But knocking on a door, and I can knock on a door, but making a cold call to somebody I don't know is very, very difficult.
Well, and what's the higher converting activity? Talking to strangers or talking to your aunt who loves you and wants you to succeed?
Can convert them.
You know, it takes a lot more conversations when you're cold calling and grabbing people at who knows what stage of their life. Those are pretty low qualifiers, but that does build your database, and that is making them your sphere. But it takes a lot of effort to get there. So that's why they focus on your sphere.
But that's a perk to a team, is having people that can offset some of those. Because Michelle can cold call all day long, and she doesn't have a problem doing that.
Yeah, totally the benefit of a team. You specialize and you do what you're good at, and you focus on that and hire your weakness, right? have someone else do that because
That's
I
why
want to
you have
focus
Anna.
on this. Exactly. You see my handwriting up here? This is about what every file looks like, and then Anna fixes
and then
everything.
Anna takes it and goes, "Stop touching it."
And I say, thank you so much. Tell me what else I have to do for you. All right. Any comments or questions about that idea and the activity surrounding Pocatello people? Anything? Okay. We got one more video. Oh, did we already do this guy? We may have, huh? If this guy's name's Josh. Yeah, we already did him.
Yeah, you just had 2 videos.
Yeah, we only have 2. There's the guide. You guys ready to do a listing presentation? If you had to do a listing presentation this afternoon, what would you do first?
Send a pre-qual packet.
Send a pre-qual packet? What if you don't have one?
Well, if I've got the appointment already, they should be pre-qualified. So we know that they're ready to sell. My next step is I want to do my CMA.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an idea of at least what the other homes in the market are like, so that I can come up with where I think the pricing should be.
Mm-hmm.
And then I print a listing packet. I want a seller rep, my agency disclosure. I know if I need a lead-based paint, I'm taking the seller's disclosure link with them. I'll pick it up in 2 days.
Yeah.
So I'm taking those things with me. I have my card.
Yep. Have you ever been in a situation where they're ready to go and you're like, crap, I didn't bring a contract?
And then I have my iPad with me
Mm-hmm.
too. But I do carry. I'll take a blank one.
Oh yeah.
We'll just sign right then if they're ready to go.
So our office, she sends me with. We decided to move to these pink sheets as kind of the walkthrough of the house, property highlight sheet. So as I walk through, I'm getting all the pertinent information. And then if I ever see a pink sheet that's on the bottom of a pile or floating around the office, it stands out because that's basically $6,000, right? If you get the listing and get it closed. And so I want to know if I got a pink sheet that's floating in the middle of that pile, it stands out. And that's been pretty useful for us, just to change the color of that sheet. So we know that if I ever see one in the garbage, holy cow, I'm like, what is that doing in the garbage? Because that's $6,000. And every once in a while on our ISA, they'll fill one out and then throw it away. And I'll be like, what's that doing in the garbage? But if it was white, I wouldn't know, right? We don't want those in the garbage. So you're at the property. Oh, that's what I was saying. Mike's back here. He's going to love this.
Oh, yeah.
Look at this. The listing packet that has all the information that you need when you list property. Blue brochure, right? So this, if I'm having them sign this thing and leaving it with them, I'm glad you're here. This dotted line says I tear that off and I only bring back the bottom receipt that acknowledges that they received the 2 pages, right? And so if I've got this signed with ink and I didn't tear it off or make a copy, you didn't leave this page with them. That's kind of what that means, right? But that signature acknowledges that you gave them the blue brochure, which is 2 pages, which is a good intro into what a client and agent relationship is, which takes you right into your listing agreement. Mike, how do you explain limited dual agency?
What I do is if I'm going into a listing agreement,
these people, already I don't need to talk about the customer part because it's assumed they're going to be a client when they sign the document.
Yeah.
Then when I go into the limited dual, I'll say there are times when there are agents at our office that have buyer representation agreements. They're working with the buyer. And we don't want to limit them from being able to show your property. If we represent you 100% and we're trying to represent them 100%, we can't show your property to them. So the Idaho Real Estate Commission has in law where we can represent both parties. It's called limited dual agency. That means we can work with a buyer and a seller, but there are certain things that may be limited. Meaning, the buyer wants to get it for the lowest price possible, you want the top price possible, so we can't negotiate price on your behalf. However, there are times when we can have what's called limited dual agency with assigned agents. I can represent you as a seller, and another agent in our office can represent the buyer. I'm working for you 100%, and I can negotiate on your behalf, and the broker has assigned the other agent to represent the buyers and negotiate on their behalf. So out of these options here, I would recommend that you initial limited dual agency and or assigned agency. When we get to that situation, I'll let you know if I'm limited on what I can discuss or if I'm just assigned to represent you.
That's good. And it was only a year or two ago that they came up with the assigned agency, right?
It's been a little longer than that.
Has it?
It's probably been, I think it's been.
Well,
Time flies when you're having fun.
check out my picture in the MLS. It's been a while.
Because it was before I moved here. I've been here for 4 years.
Okay.
And I remember coming up here and teaching a class at iTech.
Mm-hmm.
That was in several years before that, so it's probably been about 6 years.
That helps, I think, because it explains that they were a big office with only one broker. And when you have one broker who's responsible to the state, basically, and to make sure that we're abiding by the statute and rules, then he has to make sure that the agency that we're providing is on point. And so we share a broker, but the information doesn't go through the broker to the other party. Is that a fair way to explain? And it is okay to recommend that. I recommend.
I would recommend that you do initial listing. Why? Because if you want a single agency, I have to let all the agents in my office know with like 50 to 60% market share,
yeah,
but they cannot show your listing if they're represented by.
Awesome.
I think that would harm you. So,
yeah, that's good. That last compliance video with those attorneys, I was on the web. They said the property disclosure, they talked about that a little bit, right? And I typically, to speed things along, will ask the questions with these guys here and do that. They said don't do that.
No. I think it should be in their handwriting filled out by them. You can start off with them to help explain and read some of it, but the pen must be in. I would recommend pens in their hand and fill it out.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh, I should just leave with them and go away and come back another day to get it. I disagree a little bit with that unless you need to. I'd rather give them the paperwork, explain a little bit about it to them so they can mark do not know, see remarks, that type of stuff. And then I'll take the other spouse, if it's a husband and wife, and go out and put the lockbox on and the sign while the other person's filling out the contract. That way I can still take it back with me that day and not have to come back another day to get it. But there are times when you might want to leave it, but if you don't have to, try to bring it back.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, do it. Thanks, Mike. So that's kind of the technical portion. We have added a few things that we have people sign just for our group that are helpful that you may want to think about. The utility release form, if we want to get a consumption history.
Getting those back, because I know for a long time the city was pushing back hard on not wanting to give those, and so I kind of gone to the side and stopped because it was becoming a major,
just a way big
kind
back
of
and forth.
Source of contention,
and
want to make waves. something like that?
I don't know, because that's not something that I do.
I'm not worried about that part.
I get that thing signed, and hopefully they get it done. I remember they said there's some issues and they stopped doing them, but then we also have a quick statement about the photos. We want to use our photos in everything that we do. There's already a disclosure on the listing that says I will allow you to take my photo and use it in advertising, but this is an extension, so I can use their picture in anything I want to do, including like testimonials and advertising and marketing outside of just selling their house. And then we've had some issues with home warranties and inspections, so we do an additional, explanation saying, hey, if you want to have a inspection right now, it may be a good idea. You can buy it, and you have to opt out of it if you don't. So if you take that with you, you're prepared. And then, I've got Lauren's card, so once they sign, I can say, Lauren will be contacting you. Here's her card. Here's what she's going to do. Here's what I do from this point forward. And so they're never questioning. Oh, they are always questioning. They always forget, it seems like. But I'm the point of contact for any negotiation. I'm the point of contact for contracts, for the inspection, for all those things. But if you call me and ask me where my sign and lockbox are, I do not know that. Lauren does that, and we really work as a team. And so if it's assigned to her, we don't, she does that the better than I do, and so she focuses on those things. So it'd be better to call her. If it has anything to do with contracts, for sure, call me. I'll tell you, there's definitely pros and cons with the team, and we have felt both. But if you can, the more you communicate with people, the better, I would say. Because I've never heard anyone say, man, you call me all the time. I think they like it when you call them all the time. Stay in constant communication. That guy with the Monday and Friday, that scares me to commit to that, for one. I got a lot of other things I got to do. But if you did that would be amazing.
I think that's where time blocking is probably the key on that one.
Yeah.
Because really, it wouldn't take too long. And that's something too, I mean, you have a listing manager.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, really something like that listing manager could contact as far as like a Monday update. This is what happened over the weekend.
Well, she does
and
Fridays.
You can do your Friday.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea.
Of when now we need to maybe look at bumping down the price to go into the weekend. So maybe flopping that and having those conversations and training your listing manager too, how to talk about that. This is our next step. I mean, there's most of the time we have, if we're not getting X amount of showings, or if we're not generating an offer in this time frame, and that's the whole reason we come and listen to Mike talk about stats and how long it's taking to sell, and then if it's not selling, how long it's taking to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to tell your client those things.
Yeah.
So if we don't sell in the first 12 days, then we're looking at sitting for 65. So
yeah, that's awesome. And to have that conversation on a Friday, and we have the way I set the expectation is when I take a listing is that you're going to get a call from my office for sure once a week, and then you get these feedback reports immediately. If you have questions in between, here's my cell phone number. Lauren will be reaching out to you. If it doesn't sell in 30 days, we're going to have this conversation about a price drop for sure. And then I've already set them up in my listing presentation that talks about the price drop and how we price properties. And if you ever seen the pricing strategy, that I think that's a Tim Heil thing or a Ben Kinney that we copied from. And you say, if you're here, you're going to get offers. If we're here, 10 showings on your house or 30 days on the market. If it took 30 days to get 10 showings, then and we don't have any offers, we're probably 3 to 5% high. And so at 30 days, we're going to have that conversation about dropping your price 3 to 5%, depending on how many showings we have. And you start with that conversation. It's easy to bring it up later, right? So that's just prepping those guys. All right. You guys think you can take a listing at this point? I'll let you practice the listing presentation on your own. How about that? They wanted you to do the whole listing presentation. Putting it all together, you've got an action plan. Practice your listing presentation with a partner. Practice listing presentation objections with a partner. Practice all other scripts with a partner and begin your mission for next class. So will you guys take all of those and do them? At least practice one listing presentation before your next Ignite. Is that something you'll do? Awesome. I think that's it for us then. Any of you guys have any other questions or complaints, concerns, input? Nothing? Okay. Go get a listing. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.